But women's preference for fuel source is actually very different from men. Men tend to prefer to oxidize carbs in exercise, but women actually prefer to oxidize fats in exercise. And this is obviously constantly being researched, but they found that women, and kind of studying like how they use up nutrients in their body, they tend to use up fats more than carbs. And this has many, many reasons behind it. I mentioned before that women have more estrogen, and estrogen has a muscle sparing effect. It actually protects your muscle more. It's more, it prevents a catabolic effect in your body. Whereas because men don't have that, they can lose, like, I guess, the muscle faster during exercise. So they have to use carbs quite quickly. So men use carb quite intensely in their exercise, whereas women use slightly less carbs and more fat. So why is this really important is because you may need, as you age particularly as well, you may need a little bit more healthy fats than you think. You may need more healthy fats than you think, okay? So this is really important because when women's estrogen levels drop, and they don't have, basically when their estrogen level drops, if you have too low and you don't have enough good fats to support this can lead to brain fog, depression, hot flashes, night sweats, fatigue, vaginal dryness. Doesn't that sound a lot like menopausal symptoms, right? So if you have more healthy fats, you can actually help a lot of these kind of, symptoms. And so it's important to have lots of good healthy fat. And if you exercise a lot is really important as well, right? And because you're, with menopause, so if you have not enough healthy fats, you have lower estrogen level, then also menopause is lower estrogen level. You can see like how this kind of leads to a lot of compounding effect of what low estrogen levels does to your body, right? But again, this is another thing to keep in mind. Suddenly I don't need someone to go buy this big bag of nuts and start eating it and be like, because Clarice says more fat in the body is good. So here's the thing. If you eat too much fat, you have to be really careful because it has lots of calories, right? 1 gram of fat is 9 calories versus 1 gram of carbs or protein is 4 calories. So you could spike your calories really, really fast with healthy fats. So you have to be particularly cautious of that. But you also don't, and like if you have too much fats, then suddenly you have weight gain, right? Because you're not only calorie wise, but the estrogen level spikes too high. So weight gain, mood swings, headaches, insomnia, breast tenderness, irregular menstrual cycles. So you don't want to like throw your estrogen level too high when you also don't want it too low. So why I bring this up is because like, it's sort of like this. I know she's always open for me using her as an example, but Jennifer is, she just really likes her fats a lot. And when I first actually saw her kind of what she was eating, I mentioned this to her, and obviously there's a little bit that I've wanted her to lower, and so it was just because like she was just so high up there, but she still wants a lot of fat, and I still give her that because she probably needs it in her body because she always is demanding it in her what she wants, but it's like, yeah, we really want to balance this because I don't want her to spike too high, because I know, and that's why I said earlier, if you understand what each macronutrient does to your body, then you're going to be cautious of like these things. You're like, oh, I really want this, and you go crazy and have too much of it. What does that do to your body? And knowing that can like spike your estrogen level like crazy. Rosalinda is another big example. Wow, does she ever like her nuts? a lot. Rosalinda, if you're ever on here, you know what I'm talking about. So it's like you want to be really careful. You do have more preference for fat as you age, for healthy fat, but just again, you need to have the right combination. I guess I'm coming back to the same thing, is you need to have the right combination. So let me ask you, do you know your proper fat macros? So if you don't know your proper fat macros, put fat macros below, because again, that is very, very important to your hormonal profiling and what it does to you in your body, right? A little goes a long way for fats. Exactly, Cindy, you know that. Let's talk about one more thing here. So after 40, your estrogen levels drop, right? Your estrogen starts to go down. So what people don't understand is when your estrogen levels drop, how does this impact your insulin level? Does anyone know? It causes your insulin level to rise. Sherry says, yes, you've got that right. So when estrogen levels drop, it actually forces insulin levels to start to rise. So there's a lot of correlation between insulin resistance and estrogen dropping. So this is really crucial to understand. As you age, because of your estrogen drop, you become actually more insulin resistant by nature because of that. So thus why whatever you used to do and could eat and could get away with, you really can't get away with when you are older. And you can't afford to not understand your carbs, because I mentioned above, your carbs and fat ratios are so important to each other. And you're like, before 40, you can get away with a lot of things, but your insulin level starts being resistant. But for anyone who doesn't understand that, it just means like, it's like you're not able to respond to insulin as well, your cells, if it's insulin resistant. And insulin is the molecule that opens up the gate and lets the sugar through, right? So if it doesn't allow insulin to do it, you're not getting a whole lot of sugar to move into your cells, into your muscles. And now you have sugar in your body. You have too much sugar in your body. That's not a good thing. And your body will figure out something to do, and most likely it's going to put it on as fat and then cause a lot of problems with your organs and stuff like that, right? So again, after 40, your estrogen levels drop, which causes your insulin levels to rise, which increases your risk of insulin resistance. And that chain of hormones then affects thyroid, and your thyroid levels start to go down. What happens when your thyroid levels go down? Oh, this is a test for all of you. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna say it. So your thyroid levels will go down. So estrogen levels drop, insulin levels rise, thyroid levels go down. And if your thyroid levels start going down, this combination makes you actually super hungry. So for some of you, and don't misinterpret this, if you have a healthy metabolism and you're wanting healthy foods to eat, that's great. But for people who have like uncontrolled cravings, they can't stop eating certain things, and they suddenly like seem to have this like really imbalance in their body. A lot of times is maybe because their thyroid levels are dropping. Not the only reason. Again, what Barb here is. Anyways, I won't say. But yeah, like you have to go consult your doctor on some of these things. But the thing is, if your thyroid levels drop, you're hungrier, you have lower energy, you're more fatigued, and you're more likely to weight gain, just like Vivian said there, because you're slower thyroid, right? So you end up eating more because you're hungrier and burning fewer calories because you have slower metabolism, all of those types of things. So weight gain accumulates very fast after 40 or 50 because of all the shifting of hormones in your body. And particularly you're going to gain that in the midsection because your estrogen levels dropped, which means your androgen hormones went up, which means the belly depositing hormones kind of shifted more to the belly because androgen hormones are responsible for centralization of fat distribution, as I said. So then now you have more of the hormone that's circulating to help you push weight or gain weight, push it into the midsection. And on top of that, if you don't understand inflammation, which is why the 21-day program is there, then you have high inflammation circulating that further distributes it into your belly. And now you are like, why am I gaining my belly? I don't understand. And on top of that, with your estrogen levels dropping, you have a faster decline in your midsection core muscle. Your core muscles actually drop off a lot faster. And so it becomes, the core is weak, fat is depositing faster, inflammation is faster, and you can see how one thing leads to the other, right? So Sydney says hypothyroidism. Yes, but low thyroid doesn't necessarily mean hypothyroidism, but it can lead to that, if that makes sense. That can lead to that. So you can see right away there's a big chain that happens, and why I don't like generalization of macro calculations, right? Because if you look at this complexity of this situation, it's like, how can you say this general calculation of this amount of basal metabolism times your activity level, then times it by a percentage of 30% protein, 50% carbs, or whatever these percentages are. And then you go, wait, but that doesn't take into account my hormones. And that doesn't take into account like what my body type is. And that doesn't take into account like where my estrogen, thyroid levels, and all these things are that is now impacting it. And so this is kind of why I explain it this way, because it depends on you, it depends on what type of body type you have. Like look at Marcia just jumped in, and Marcia is naturally a leaner person as well. She may not struggle with massive amounts of belly fat. And there's a certain she was in my program before that I will have to kind of work with her on because she doesn't struggle with massive belly fat. But if someone struggles with massive belly fat, there's a lot going on with your hormones. There's a lot going on with your hormones, right? And so not only do you have to be extra cautious of the ratio of your macros, okay? These are some other tips I want to give you, generally speaking, to think about to make sure your body, functions as optimally as possible. So outside of making sure all your macros are really well balanced, you need to learn what inflames your body and learn how to lower it as much as possible, right? Because your body is becoming more inflamed as you age, is becoming more inflamed as you head into menopause because of all the situations happening in your body. So you must learn how to bring down inflammation in your body, which is what that 21-day program is about. You need to limit sugar and any added sugar as much as you can, unless you are an athlete and a high-performing athlete. You need to limit saturated fats. You can have a little bit, just not too much of saturated fats, because your body doesn't can't process it as well. You need to watch your sodium levels. Anything above 2,300 milligrams is going to be too much, so be very careful of your sodium levels. I have lots to say about alcohol. I'm not a fan of it. There's a lot of reasons, and I will say that alcohol not only is a different type of sugar compound and puts extreme stress on your liver, but it has massive impacts on a inflammation response system. And again, I'm not going to get into details of that, but yeah, be careful of alcohol, and you have to be very cognizant of micronutrients as well. This is a macronutrient live, not a micronutrient live, but your micronutrients like your vitamins and minerals are also extremely important. And you need to make sure as you age, like a lot of the things like iron and calcium, potassium, your vitamin D, A, C are also really important. So making sure like you have really good micronutrient profiling. And if you don't know your micronutrients, again, I do have a micronutrient live. I also put that micronutrient live in the 21-day program. So, obviously that one, if you want to learn more, you can request it below. But it's also like, again, I'm going to say the same thing is like, you can go blanket overall, or sometimes you may need more specific guidance on specific micronutrients, right? Especially if you have gut issues, gut issues require specific types of micronutrients to make sure that it's functioning properly. So really learning that well is going to be important, as well as making sure you have lots of fiber. So you should have at least 25 grams of fiber per day to ensure you have maximal gut health, right? So it says, Cindy says, aging can suck unless you learn how and what to do. And I'm still seeking to learn. Yes. And Cindy, obviously she was in my transformation program, my muscle accelerator, and now she's in my 21-day program. So Cindy is one determined lady. Like, and I know for her 60th birthday, her goal was to lose that belly, and she's done it. And she's a great example. And I know she's just constantly trying to figure out how to best optimize it. But the ones who have done my program, and some of you who are back in my 21-day program, isn't it funny how fast you'll lose it if you're not conscious of what you eat? Some of you have told me this. I let myself go, I slipped, I started eating this and this, and I started putting this and this, and you can see why. Like, if you listen to my live, I said, when you're after 40, the amount of hormonal situations happening in your body, just even a little bit of inflammation is going to switch these hormones on you like crazy. You switch one hormone, what does it do? It's like a massive chain reaction. And then you do inflammation, cortisol spikes, estrogen level drops, insulin resistance increases, thyroid drops, like, and all and the cortisol rises, and then that affects your sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone. Now suddenly you're not able to build muscle, and then from one hormone thing goes to the next, and it's like, it's so complex, but it's not. Like, it's almost like if you can understand structurally, like, I'm going to say it again. I believe the first thing is you must address inflammation. If you don't have inflammation in your body, I high five you, you're awesome. But if the first thing you have, you must address inflammation. Number two is then you need to understand your macros and really understand what is the role of protein, carbs, and fat in your body, and how, as you age, these macronutrients have to be dialed differently for your body as you age. And what you got as a macronutrient, let's say dialing when you were 45 is likely not the same when you're 55. And so just to make sure you really recognize that, right? And keep that, in your mind.